Hello, everyone, and welcome. My name is Marie O'Neill, and today we will be talking about the Decanates. Of course, we'll actually be talking about the last 4 signs for the Decanates, because the first segment and the second segment were for the Decanates for signs Aries through Cancer, and then the second session was for signs Leo through Scorpio. The reason that this is being recorded in with three recordings is because the information is there's just so much information to give. So if you're concerned or if you want to hear more about the first 8 decanates, please go back and listen to the recordings for that. Before we get started, I want to give you just a little bit of information about me. Of course, my name is Marie O'Neill, and I am an evolutionary astrologer trained by Stephen Forrest. I have a master certification through his apprenticeship program, which was just a treat, a wonderful treat. I am also a life coach, specializing in life renewal topics for people, and I like to use astrology with the life coaching that I do with clients. So I have given you just a little bit about me. At the end, there will be a phone number and a website where you can contact me if you have more questions, or if you want to, schedule readings, because I still do readings. And so today we have 1 hour exactly to get through 4 signs, 3 decanates for each sign, which means that's 16 decanates that we have to get through. So what I like to do is ask questions, if you have any questions, at the end of each decanate that we talk about. But in this case, I think I might hold off a little bit. If you have an urgent question, go ahead and type that in, or let the host know that there is a question, and I'll do my best to answer it. But because we're under a time constraint and I want to make sure that you get everything here, I'll wait until closer to the end of the hour to ask for questions. Let's see, what else is there as far as housekeeping? I think that is about it. Oh, other than the slides, Linda has the slides available if you're interested in them. There's some good information in them. And if not, okay, so let's go ahead and get started. I'm actually going to be reading a lot because I have a lot of information that I want to share with you. So let's get started. So this first decanate that we're going to be talking about today is the Sagittarius decanate, which is 0 to 9 degrees. A decan is broken down into 10 degrees. And this was done by ancient astrologers, because what they did is they recognized that they had the 12 signs, and then there were 36 constellations. And what they were trying to do is break the decanates down into a manageable number. So they also noticed that the stories, the Greek mythology, the stories worked very well with these decanates. And I'm finding it's just absolutely amazing when I look at the Greek mythology, which is how I use the decanates. If someone is coming to me and they have an ascendant at 0 degrees Sag or 8 degrees Sag, I know that there is an overlay of this particular decanate, which means I look at the mythological story for that person. And sometimes I actually tell the person the story and see how that relates to them. because we didn't start out having the written word. We told stories around the campfire. And, so mythology is just an integral part of who we are and a part of our hero's journey, which all of us are on, by the way. So when you're thinking about these decanates, look at where Sagittarius, for example, where Sagittarius is in your chart, and which decan it is. Is it the first decan, the second decan, or the third decan in your chart? And if it is, and when you're listening today, as a matter of fact. So anyway, let's go ahead and get started. The first decanate, of course, is Sagittarius. And the dates for this is November 22nd through December 2nd. And when we're looking at this first decanate, this is a true Sagittarius, because the sub-planet that is a ruler here is the same. I mean, the first decanate is Sagittarius, Sagittarius. I guess I should say that when you're looking at the elements, when you're looking at the decanates too. So for example, the fire elements, if you're born in, with this first decanate, your element is going to be Sag. I mean, your element, the sign associated with this first decanate is Sag, whereas the second decanate will be the second fire sign from Sagittarius, which is Aries, and that adds a sub-influence. So then the third sign from Sagittarius in the fire element is going to be Leo, which adds a sub-influence of Leo and the sun. So you can see, just because you're a Sagittarius, all Sagittariuses are not the same. So I hope I made that clear. Now, this first decanate, like I said, it is Sagittarius, Sagittarius, which means that Jupiter is the king here. And the constellation is the Lyra. Now, the Lyra is the harp of 7 strings. And the harp, this is the same harp that David played when he wanted to soothe King Saul, if you're interested in that. People born under this particular decanate, when they're true to themselves, they are actually the most religious of all basically, and they're capable of obtaining a high level of consciousness because of the Sagittarius influence here. But like I said, religion plays a big role. However, you can have some orthodoxy with this. And this is often most expressed through their kinship with nature and their love and sympathy for all living creatures. They live at their best and accomplish the most when they constantly feel the abiding presence of the cosmic intelligence. And they pretty much place implicit trust in that cosmic intelligence versus trust in humans, which is a good thing. They feel they feel as though they have a definite mission in the world, and they do follow their inner voice a lot more than others. The key word here for this decanate is devotion. So for these people, there has to be devotion to something, whether it is a religion, whether it is nature, whether it's a cause or something, because That's what it's all about for this particular decanate. The spiritual text, and the spiritual text that I'm referring to comes from Delineating the Horoscope, which was written by C.C. Zain, and that's Z-A-I-N. And at the end here, there will be a list of books that you can get if you choose to on the decanates. But I learned the decanates through the Church of Light, which is in Albuquerque, New Mexico. It's one of the mystery schools that is out here. We don't have many of them, but anyway, for this decanate, the spiritual text says, on every planet, harmony is life and discord is death. How that is explained is discouragement and feeling of self-disapproval keep the mind tuned in on the lower states of Pluto's realm. But faith and devotion tend to enable the individual to rise above all such sordid and discordant feelings, so that they, for the time being, are no longer troublesome, no longer attract discordant intelligences from the invisible. Like the music of David's hearth, faith and devotion soothe and lift the thoughts. For as the text states, on every plane, harmony is life and discord is death. So devotion, which is profound dedication, consecration, earnest attachment to cause or person, that is this particular decanate. So, like I said, when you're looking at the decanates, look to your sun sign, your ascendant, your moon sign, and see how this relates to you. The second decanate is, of course, between 10 and 19 degrees. The dates are December 2nd to December 12th. The symbol here is going to be Mars. And the reason is, just as I stated before, the sub-sign, the sub-influence is Aries. And in traditional astrology, of course, which is what we're looking at here, Aries is ruled by Mars. So we're looking at Mars here. The constellation, if I can pronounce this phonetically, is Aksua. Aksua. And Aksua is an eagle, being aloft in its talons, a young man. The key word is exploration. Spiritual text says, sleep the soul wanders on the wings of its desires to the region most attractive to it. Let that region therefore be the highest. So let's go through this and see what we can find out. Now, Aquila is, of course, the eagle, and it lies along the Milky Way, which is a few degrees from the celestial equator, near the constellation of Sagittarius. And this eagle, of course, is the bird of Zeus, if you didn't know that. And of course, Zeus is AKA Jupiter. So he was the bird that carried the thunderbolt of Zeus. And Zeus fell in love with the shepherd girl, who didn't Zeus fall in love with. And she was, of course, a beautiful mortal. So he sent Aquilus to bring this maiden to him on Mount Olympus. So I think her name is Ganymede, became Zeus's royal cupbearer and was immortalized in the constellation Aquarius. So that's just something else there. Anyway, so Aquila is the symbol of transmuted sex and the power of the higher mind to make lofty flights through the rare atmosphere of the spiritual world. Pictures among the constellation, the Aries Decanate of Sagittarius. So here we have the migratory instincts of Sagittarius are given a trend towards pioneering. Consequently, what happens is we find these people are to be unusually successful in searching out new fields of endeavor, whether it's mental, physical, or spiritual. They're usually restless. So if you have this decanate, you probably are restless, and that would be normal. Their minds are constantly alert, and in order for them not to become discontented, it's very essential that they have at all times something that they are aspiring to, because they can get bored very easily. So they do need to always be accomplishing something. Confinement and restriction are not something that these people need in their life, because they feel as though they're trapped when this happens to them. And this is in occupation or life or any aspect of their life. So of all creatures, it is believed that the eagle flew highest and thus was the explorer of heaven. He was the bird of Jove, the bearer of thunder, the one who, when a cupbearer was needed for the kings of the gods, was sent forth and brought back the youthful Ganymede. Quite appropriately, therefore, was he placed in the sky, where he would picture the exploration decanate of Sagittarius, because that's exactly what he did. He was the explorer. So here, the last thing that I want to read to you about this is, more difficult than perceiving realities while asleep is the work of bringing them into the memory of everyday consciousness. Yet through training, the individual can bring back the reports of his explorations on the inner plane. This leads to the text, in sleep, when you go to sleep and dream, the soul wanders on the wings of its desires to the region most attractive to it. So you know, when we sleep and we dream, we're off. We're off into other realms. And we want to bring the information that we gather back to consciousness, to waking consciousness. So let that region, therefore, be the highest. That is the second decanate. The third and final decanate of Sagittarius is the 20 to 29 degree. The symbol here is the sun, because this decanate has a sub-influence of Leo. And the constellation here is I think it's Sagitta. The description is an arrow in full flight. Remember the saying with Sagittarius, I point my arrow and I shoot. Where it goes, nobody knows. However, if you're one-pointed and you know where you want to shoot your arrow, you're bound to reach your goal. Here, this is an arrow that is already in flight, so it's already been shot. The key word is illumination. The spiritual texts say concentration is the arrow that pierces the illusions of matter and makes possible high accomplishment. So with this particular constellation, Sagitta is the Latin word for arrow, and it's an ancient constellation situated near Delphinus and Aquila. It is the third smallest of the constellations. Not that you really needed to know that, but I put it in. And in mythology, Sagitta is believed to be the arrow that Hercules used to slay Aquila, Zeus's eagle, who was daily devouring Prometheus's liver. That sounds gross, doesn't it? It might also represent the arrows released from Sagittarius's bow, which is how I like to look at this. So this is, of course, the Leo decanate pictured in the sky. This is the arrow also that Mithra shot against the rock, and a stream of water immediately gushed forth. It symbolized the soul piercing the illusions of matter. And through this comprehension of the meaning of incarnate existence, beings are able to quench its thirst at the fountain of divine consciousness. So here, of course, you're setting a goal. You want your to attain a high goal. So you put your consciousness on what it is you want to attain. And this particular decanate is, can definitely make the goal because of the arrow. So here it also says, which is interesting, people born with this decanate may either tread the path of pleasure or climb the royal road to spiritual supremacy. The choice is, of course, up to the person. Being the kingly section of the sign of the higher mind, when the sporting proclivities related to the fifth sign's influence are transmuted, they have not only the ability to perceive things in their proper relationship, but to synthesize their observation and impart this knowledge. Because remember, Sagittarius is about higher thoughts and higher knowledge. And Leo is ruler of the fifth house, because the sun is the ruler of the fifth house. So that's why with this particular decanate, we can look to the fifth house, which is the house of fun, too, to be a part of this. Now, Sagittarius is the constellation of the higher mind and of religion, and Lyra depicts the method by which this mind tunes in on higher planes of existence and responds to inspirational harmonies from such upper spheres. Okay, so this constellation is represented, of course, by the arrow, and it is, if you let it fly, but you know where you want to go, you can reach your goal. But you do need to aim correctly with this particular constellation, or with this particular, constellation. We are moving on to Capricorn. Make sure I've got my time here. Oh, good. Oh, good, because I can talk on and on. So in this particular constellation, this particular decanate, this is Capricorn. First decanate at 0 to 9 degrees, date December 22nd through January 1st. This symbol, remember, Capricorn is ruled by Saturn, and the first decanate is Saturn. So the ruler is true Saturn. And here the constellation spells Cygna. It's Cygna. The description is a swan flying swiftly southward. The key word here is organization. And under the spiritual text, we have, under certain conditions, the stone is rolled from the entrance of the tomb, and man consciously exchanges ideas with those who have entered the chamber of death. Don't you really like this stuff? Anyway, let's talk about this particular decanate. So here, the swan is speckless and white, with an outspread, the wings are outspread. And his wings are outspread, and it's in the frozen north, going from the frozen north to the sunny southern skies. It's pictured among the constellation of the first decanate of Capricorn. It symbolizes the first news of a new order of things, a retreat from the crystallizing influence of materialism, and the harbinger of the approaching warmth of a spring, of a spiritual spring. So we find people born under this particular decanate, when living at their highest, they are the forerunners of better conditions. They like to bring forth better conditions for others, and they realize the value of systems and organization and the effects of those systems and organizations for worthwhile changes, which is what they are all about. And so in business or in politics, both of which are spheres of activity to which this particular decanate they're naturally inclined, they're at their greatest. This is their greatest asset in consolidating different factors or factions and inducing them to join in some large merger, which will operate more economically and efficiently than could any one faction alone. So these people shoulder responsibility readily and become the managers in the world. And don't we need good managers today? I wonder if we have any. Not just saying. Anyway, to live at their highest, they must be permitted to find expression for their talent of coordinating. So these people really do need to find their right home in business. It's key because they're needed. And anyway, that's this particular decanate. So it also says, like some friends we have known, loved ones who already have passed, they have the scenes of their early hardships and wing their way to sunnier skies. As the stone was rolled away from the sepulchre, sepulchre. My pronunciation is horrible. Or lowest point of the sun, which is what this actually means, the sun's descent, giving the promise of a future life. So also, at their appointed time, do the swan again return, snow white in purity, the most graceful of all that fly, with wide expanse of wing, nothing to readily suggest angels. Blessing or message bearers coming from a brighter realm than this, bringing news of loved ones and telling something of the surroundings there, where we too will live before many cycles of the sun. This is a description of the spiritual text. Your next, excuse me, decanate is Capricorn, the second decanate, 10 through 19 degrees. Excuse me, drink some water. 10 through 19 degrees. I love this particular decan. This symbol is Taurus because we've moved into the earth signs. So we're looking at Scorpio, 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 Taurus, and then what's the third one? Oh, I'm sorry. We're looking at, we're looking at Capricorn, 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 Taurus, and then we're looking at Capricorn, Virgo. So this particular decan has the sub-influence of Taurus, which means we're looking at Venus. And this is Delphinus, the constellation, which is where this decanate, this decan lies. And Delphinus is a dolphin that has come to the surface to breathe. The key word for this decanate is martyrdom. Spiritual text says, man, by his thoughts, his emotions, and his actions on earth, builds for himself a home in a higher realm where he will dwell after passing from the physical plane. I like that. That's a really good one. So with, and of course, just to let you know, Delphinus is Latin for dolphin. And it's a small constellation in the sky, but a very important one. So here's a legend for this particular constellation. I like this particular legend. Okay, it's a small constellation flanked by Equus, Pegasus, Sagittarius, and Aquila. One of the legends from classical mythology holds that Poseidon placed the dolphin in the sky after he assisted the gods in wooing the beautiful Aphrodite. Wow, I like that. Anyway, the dolphin was later associated with Apollo as the constellation Delphinus. So now here, while the sun passes through this decanate, we have Epiphany. And also the common civil year begins, bringing a new dispensation. And about the dolphin that represents this section of the zodiac, there are many traditions implying it to be a savior of men. And we find that those born here possess extraordinary ability to make the most of whatever environment they find themselves in. Even as the dolphin has adapted himself to water and to humans, they utilize every condition to their purpose. And while encountering many setbacks, they have the persistence to again come to the surface and carry on. They are undefeatable. And when they set their minds upon some worthy cause, they scale the heights to success. And if they get a higher than material viewpoint, they're capable of great self-sacrifice in the interest of universal progression. So this is the second decanate of Capricorn. I hope some of you are having these decanates or have these decanates in your charts and are thinking about how they apply to you. The third decanate is, of course, 20 to 29 degrees of Capricorn, January 10th through January 20th. Constellation, of course, is Pisces. The symbol here is Capricorn, Virgo. And Virgo is ruled by Mercury, so there is a Mercury element to this particular decan for Capricorn. The description is a fish drinking the water that flows from the urn of Aquarius. Idealism is the key word here. The spiritual text says, from the inner planes, it is possible for man to attract any information whatsoever he is capable of utilizing. So with this particular decanate, I've got some things here. Okay. No need to mention that. To the third decanate is, of course, in the constellation Australis, really, which is the constellation representing pictured with Mercury. It is shown as eagerly drinking the water that flows from the urn of Aquarius. This symbolizes the conception that through the civilization of the higher emotions, through the cultivation of the higher emotions, it is possible to communicate maliciously with those who have passed to the spirit side. So also that those on earth are, to an undreamed of extent, the recipients of love and wisdom poured down upon them by those who have left the earth. So this particular decanate has a particular ability to reach those from the other realms, which is quite interesting. However, the constellation is Pisces. So this is why this is so. People born under this decanate have a natural ability to grasp the ideal and express it in concrete form. Their power of imagination is marked and is united to the faculty of intensive labor. They can follow clerical lines, but to develop their highest talents, they should be permitted to develop and extend and execute plans of their own. They readily contact the interior planes and draw valuable information from other sources. Okay, so I am going to go on to the next one because it's getting later. With this decanate, this is the first decanate of Aquarius, and it's 0 to 9 degrees, solar date, January 20th through January 30th. Here we have it being Aquarius, so it's Uranus and Saturn. In traditional astrology, it would have only been Saturn. However, in modern astrology, we're bringing in Uranus to this. Okay, so the constellation is Equuleus. And the description is the head of a horse with flowing mane. Originality is the key word. Spiritual text says, next to love, man's most useful companion is knowledge, and in particular, the knowledge of the manner in which the planets influence human life and destiny. So only the head of the horse can be shown, peering from behind the constellation of Pegasus. It's the second smallest of the modern constellations with no bright stars. So those born under this constellation of the sky tend to follow their own ideas. They are keenly interested in education and are exceptional in the fullness of their knowledge of human nature. In fact, aside from their inventive ability, their greatest asset in life is in knowing how to handle men. And it is a great mistake for them to live apart from close contact with numerous people so really this particular sign really needs to be involved in their community and involved with other people, because the tendencies are progressive, and they are alert for the new and unique. Consequently, their true mission in life is in imparting their enthusiasm for advanced methods and ideas to others. So this particular decanate is very original, and we need some original ideas. So anyway, a horse immediately suggests two things: speed of travel and ability to carry a rider. The head of the horse, the animal's body missing, conveys the thought that the intelligence factor is to be considered rather than the physical propensities. To have horse sense is phraseology with which most people are familiar, even though it is not a refined expression. It indicates such a correct appraisal of circumstances that action of practical value can be based upon it. Yet the full significance of the horse head as a universal symbol employed by the ancients to convey information is not apparent until it is remembered that the sign Aquarius rules astrology, and that the horse's head pictures the astrology decanate of the sign. Okay. I'm tempted to ask if there's questions, but I don't dare. Anyway, the second decanate is 10 to 19 degrees of Aquarius, and here we have Gemini, and which means the sub-influence is Mercury, constellation Pegasus. Description is a winged horse that soars upward. Keyword inspiration. The spiritual text says, under special conditions, while still maintaining physical life, it is possible for man to free himself from the physical body, to visit the homes of the dead, to enter the halls of learning, and to bring back in full consciousness the knowledge gained in higher spheres. So this particular decanate, of course, is, we are looking at Pegasus. So people born here have the ability to gain information from invisible sources. This is because of Mercury. Consequently, they have, and also it's an air sign too, the air element. Consequently, they have unlimited resourcefulness in imaginative creation, and they are able to present their conceptions in a most dramatic manner. So, by all means, they should follow some occupation where the mind has power to exert itself. And when not inclined to literature, they should read much and learn to express their thoughts in conversation. They convey their ideas to others in a most convincing manner, and through the faculty lies their greatest good, both to themselves and to humanity. So this is the second decanate of of Aquarius. I've got so much information here. I'm going to skip over a lot of this. I think I researched too much. But anyway, the third decanate that we have is 20 to 29 degrees of Aquarius. The dates are February 1st through February 20th. And the symbol here is Cetus. I'm going to speed through this because we are definitely running out of time. And I apologize for this. I've got so much information. The description is a gigantic whale-like monster. The key word here is repression. The monster, the spiritual text says, the monster which demands the sacrifice of the fairest youths of the land is discord in marriage. And with this, these people have their greatest efficiency and attainment only in harmonious association with a kindred soul of opposite sex. Ambition, when they deny true love or make it subservient to material ambition, they are in great danger. But when they follow the dictates of the heart and realize companionship in the higher sense, they become efficient workers for human betterment. The first decanate of Pisces, we have, it is of course Pisces, so it is Jupiter and Neptune. The description here is a king with upraised scepter whose crown is surmounted by 7 globes. Key word is verity. Spiritual text says, as it is above, so it is below. And that which is below is like unto that which is above. So with this particular decanate, I want to just read a little bit. This is people born here are naturally interested in understanding nature, particularly in its psychic and spiritual aspects. They are mystics, to the manner born, and seek truth, not so much through the methods of exact science and reason as through the exercise of their psychic facilities. They readily become seers and have a natural aptitude for grasping the esoteric interpretation of all phenomena. All right, you're almost done. The second decanate is symbolized by Pisces Cancer, so the moon. Andromeda is the constellation, which is a princess chained to the rock by the sea. Key word is sacrifice. And there's a whole story around this one, but I won't go into it. And the spiritual text is, he who sacrifices his own desires for the welfare of others draws down the divine fire from the heavens and wills it, and with it kindles the highest potentials, the highest potencies of his own soul. So here we have people here, they sometimes can have their lives be restricted because they are, because of feeling that they're constrained. When living at their best, they are readily impressed by those on the spirit side of life and are often chosen to carry on some important mission on earth. They grasp more readily than others the true meaning of universal brotherhood, and they get it. So that is that one. The final one is Pisces. This is Pluto, and we have, this is Cassiopeia. She's the queen sitting on the throne, and her daughter was chained because of something she did in one of the myths. So here, vicissitudes is the key word. Text says, men may pass from this life to the next, even through death, with no greater break in his affair than would be occasioned by leaving his acquaintances in one city and taking up his activities in another city amid a different group of friends. So with this final constellation, I will give you just the final part here. I want to make sure that, yeah, here we go. So here, the third decanate, of course, it's the sex decanate of the sign of imprisonment. And mythology attributes the imprisonment of her daughter to the pride of the queen in her beauty. However, in another story, she's the queen who furnished her children with the ram that bore the golden fleece. Therefore, we find those born under this influence to have eventful lives and to be capable of entering upon and succeeding in a wide variety of careers. It is the last section of the zodiac, and they seem often to recapitulate in their lives the events and conditions we expect from many other decanates. They're unusually adaptable, are likable people, and require excitement and change. They reach their highest value in in psychological research and in adopting and advocating such a life as will prepare man for existence after the change called death. That is the final decanate. Here is some reference material for you if you're interested in knowing more about where I obtained this information. And as usual, I am Marie O'Neill with Padma Life Coaching. Here is my information. So you are welcome to contact me with questions or charts or whatever it is you wish that you think I might be able to provide. So let's open it up to questions if there are any. I guess, Linda, how much time do we have, or do we have any?
Oh, about 6 minutes.
Oh my goodness, I finished that early? Wow.
Okay, so do we have any questions? Or comments?
Yeah, do we have anyone with those decanates? With those decans?
I do. I've got my Black Moon Lilith in the first decan of Aquarius.
Oh.
Yes, I've got Chiron and Juno in the second decan of Aquarius. And my Saturn was in the second decan of Sag.
So does any of this, can you relate to any of these?
Yes, well, it's all great stuff. I mean, it's very complimentary, isn't it? It seems to be on a spiritual level. Like,
it is. Yeah, it is. And that's how I use it when I am talking to a person. If I'm looking at, if someone comes with an issue, say related to relationship, I'm going to look at the sign on that house cusp and the rulers and, you know, just the way we normally do as astrologers. But I'm also going to look at the decan, and because that's going to inform me as to the meaning. It's going to give me more information to use. And because we are people who are storytellers and we're used to being told stories in ancient times, telling someone a story, they will actually remember it better than saying, hey, you know, you got this problem and this, this aspect. And yeah, it informs people on how to resolve issues too, and how to take the higher road, because sometimes we're faced with situations and we don't know what to do. Sometimes we do know what to do, but it's going to be painful to take the high road sometimes, and we just, we can just feel like we're floundering. And having a story can help to ground us to know what right action is in every situation. So, yeah.
Yeah, well, it's great. I think many of us are very much aligned with our high roads, which is why we can relate to this information so readily.
Yeah, this is true.
Yeah.
I have a question about the South Node, kind of following what you're saying right now. So my South Node is in the third decadent of Aquarius.
Okay.
Would I view that as something I'm needing to let go of, or is that more of like a past life?
No, when I look at the South Node, I'm not looking I'm looking at it as a gift, but also it's a place where you got hurt too in a prior life. It could have been a prior life, it could have been childhood. I mean, if you don't believe, or an ancestor, if you don't believe in prior life. But I don't throw out the South Node. I say that you are working on the South Node to heal that part that was wounded in a prior life, so that you can move towards the North Node, but you still use the South Node in the sign, but you're using it as a gift. It's sort of, I look at it, it's not Chiron, of course, but that South Node you have really developed. So you don't want to throw it out, but you want to heal the lower aspects of it, so to speak. So for example, you said yours is in Aquarius. And you would look at the aspects, you look at the sign, you've got the sign, you look at the house that it's in and the rulers to inform you as to who you were in a prior life. And you're looking at what went wrong. And it's that part of the South Node that you're working to transform. You're not getting rid of that South Node because it's your gift. It's your talent. And the third, but that decanate or that decan is the story will add to the story of the prior life and how it played out for you. But it also gives you the roadmap to healing it too, or helps you with the roadmap. Does that answer?
Yes, thank you. I'm going to really look into that. It's just because you mentioned it's in the 7th house. So
yeah, so with relationships. Yeah. And this is relationship with business partners, with family, with lovers, marriage, so your relationships. So then so you'd look at that, yeah.
Thank you. I'm going to explore it.
Interrupted. What was that last thing you were saying, Marie?
I was saying that this is about relationships for her, all relationships, not just marriage, but business relationships, family relationships. It's 7th house relationships. It's also, people don't realize this, but that 7th house is also your closest and dearest friends.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Even though 11th house is friends, 7th house is your closest and dearest friends.
Sounds good. Well, thank you so much, Marie. That was fantastic.
Oh, you are welcome. Thank you.
Yeah, so interesting. Looking forward to seeing you again on EA Zoom meetings. And would everyone here please thank Marie O'Neill?
Thank you.
Thanks, Marie.
Oh, you are welcome. Thank you guys for coming out in your homes this afternoon.
All over the world.
All over the world, exactly.
Thank you, Marie.
My pleasure.
Catch you next time.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome.